Hello, it's me, Mike, with HPDS. This video will be a reading and a study of Leviticus chapter 9. Leviticus chapter 9. And before I get started, I'd like to go ahead and pray. And I will pray by reading the Lord's Prayer out of the book Matthew chapter 6. And it reads, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Alright, so Leviticus chapter 9. Just to get into this, remember a recap of what we've been reading. The first 7 chapters, chapters 1 through 7 of Leviticus, were regarding the laws of offerings and sacrifices. So the book of Exodus, if you remember, taught us what happened to the children of Israel, the people of Israel, when they left Egypt. They were wandering in the wilderness, of course. They built this tabernacle for the Lord. They set Aaron and his sons, the people of Levi. They are now the priests. And after chapters 1 through 7 of learning how the offerings and sacrifices work, last chapter 8, we talked about consecrating these Aaron and his sons. So Aaron and his sons are being consecrated so that they can begin to use this tabernacle complex so that they can make the offerings and sacrifices as the Lord has commanded them. So again, per usual, what I will go ahead and do is I will show I'll read the book straight through. I'll read the chapter straight through, and then I'll reread it line by line, just going over what the Holy Spirit kind of gives to me as a way to explain what's going on here. So let me go ahead and get set up. Let's go. I'll show this little outline. Leviticus 9, I call it the first offerings. The chapter is the first offerings. And what we're looking for in this chapter, it's a chapter of about 24 verses. And we are looking for verses 1 through 5, Aaron's first offerings. And then we're going to read 6 through 14, a sin offering for Aaron. And then we're going to have 15 through 24 offerings for the people. So as I said, what's going on is that they are now being consecrated so that they can start making offerings for the people. All right, so I'll go ahead and read it straight through. Leviticus chapter 9, and it reads, And it came to pass on the 8th day that Moses called Aaron and his sons and the elders of Israel. And he said unto Aaron, Take thee a young calf for a sin offering, and a ram for a burnt offering, without blemish, and offer them before the Lord. And unto the children of Israel thou shalt speak, saying, Take ye a kid of the goats for a sin offering, and a calf and a lamb, both of the first year without blemish for a burnt offering. Also a bullock and a ram for peace offerings, to sacrifice before the Lord, and a meat offering mingled with oil, for today the Lord will appear unto you. And they brought that which Moses commanded before the tabernacle of the congregation, and all the congregation drew near and stood before the Lord. And Moses said, This is the thing which the Lord commanded that ye should do, and the glory of the Lord shall appear unto you. And Moses said unto Aaron, Go unto the altar and offer thy sin offering and thy burnt offering, and make an atonement for thyself and for the people, and offer the offering of the people, and make an atonement for them as the Lord commanded. Aaron therefore went unto the altar and slew the calf of the sin offering, which was for himself. And the sons of Aaron brought the blood unto him, and dipped his finger in the blood, and put it upon the horns of the altar, and poured out the blood at the bottom of the altar. But the fat and the kidneys and the caul above the liver of the sin offering he burnt upon the altar, as the Lord commanded Moses. And the flesh and the hide he burnt with fire without the camp. And he slew the burnt offering, and Aaron's sons presented unto him the blood, which he sprinkled round about upon the altar. And they presented the burnt offerings unto him with the pieces thereof, and the head, and he burnt them upon the altar. And he did wash the inwards and the legs, and burnt them upon the burnt offering on the altar. And he brought the people's offerings, and took the goat, which was the sin offering for the people, and slew it, and offered it for sin as the first. And he brought the burnt offering, and offered it according to the manner. And he brought the meat offering, and took a handful thereof, and burnt it upon the altar, besides the burnt sacrifice of the morning. He slew also the bullock and the ram for a sacrifice of peace offerings, which was for the people. And Aaron's sons presented unto him the blood, which he sprinkled upon the altar round about. And the fat of the bullock and of the ram, the rump, and that which covereth the inwards, and the kidneys, and the caul above the liver. And they put the fat upon the breast, and he burnt the fat upon the altar. And the breasts and the right shoulder Aaron waved for a wave offering before the Lord, as Moses commanded. And Aaron lifted up his hand toward the people, and blessed them, and came down from offering of the sin offering. And he burnt offering, and the burnt offering, and peace offerings. And Moses and Aaron went into the tabernacle of the congregation, and came out, and blessed the people. And the glory of the Lord appeared unto all the people. And there came a fire out from before the Lord, and consumed upon the altar the burnt offering and the fat, which when all the people saw, they shouted, and fell on their faces. So that was the book of, that was the chapter of chapter 9, Leviticus 9. And yeah, it's kind of sort of repeating some of the things that just happened in chapter 8. If you remember, God was telling Moses what to do. And so now this kind of repeats a lot of chapter 8, because now Aaron is actually doing it. So, of course, this is how, we've read this throughout Genesis, Exodus, and now Leviticus, where God explains something through one chapter, perhaps, and then the very next chapter, the people are actually doing it. So it kind of is repetitive a little bit. It feels, maybe repetitive. They're going over a lot of the same things in the last chapter, in this chapter. Only in this chapter, he's actually doing it. So... but let's go ahead, and what we're looking for, remember, we're looking for Aaron's first offerings, we're looking for a sin offering for Aaron, and then we're looking for the offerings for the people. So what I'll go ahead and do, as usual, is I'll just reread this, and we'll see what's really going on here. We'll break it down a little bit more. So it came to pass on the 8th day that Moses called Aaron and his sons and the elders of Israel. Actually, this seems to be, because remember at the end of chapter 8, they were consecrated for 7 days. So this actually is after the fact. So excuse me, I was actually just kind of incorrect with that whole previous little statement there. This is actually, chapters 8 was days 1 through 7. Remember, he did all that offering, the consecration, and then for 7 days, remember, they weren't supposed to come out of the tabernacle. They were being holy there. So now actually we're on the 8th day. So now they're actually starting to do these offerings for the people, as they actually, so they're consecrated now, and now this is the week later, day 8, and they're really starting it. So he says, so Aaron, Moses calls Aaron and his sons and the elders of Israel, so they all come. And he said unto Aaron, take thee a young calf for a sin offering, and a ram for a burnt offering, without blemish, and offer them before the Lord. So remember in chapter 8, there was a bullock and 2 rams. There's a young calf and a ram. Okay, so they take them, and unto the children of Israel thou shalt speak, saying, take ye a kid of the goats for a sin offering, and a calf and a lamb, both of the first year, without a blemish, for burnt offering. So now we're actually getting, look at, a goat and a calf and a lamb. So now there's a few things. So we got a calf and a ram. Then we get, like I said, a goat, calf, and a lamb. So they're doing a few sacrifices here. Also a bullock and a ram for peace offerings. So they're also making peace offerings to sacrifice before the Lord, and a meat offering mingled with oil. For today the Lord will appear unto you. So remember, that's all from the previous chapters. Kind of, chapter 1 talked about the burnt offerings. I think chapter 3 talked about the peace offerings. So they're making a few different kinds of these offerings, but they are starting to use the tabernacle as it is intended. So that first, last chapter was the consecration, and so now this is the first of the actual where the people are they're gonna start making the sacrifices day after day. Let's see. So he says, for today the Lord will appear to you. So the Lord is gonna appear to them. And that's what we did read with the fire here in a minute. And they brought that which Moses commanded before the tabernacle of the congregation. And all the congregation drew near and stood before the Lord. So remember, 1 through 5 is Aaron's first offering. So this is the first offerings. Chapter 8 was the consecration. This is the actual beginning to use the tabernacle. So think of it kind of like, I know this ain't correct, but obviously, in today's modern world, think of the idea of somebody makes a building, and lots of times they have this sort of ceremony where people come and cut the ribbon in front of the building, and then people are allowed to use it. So that's kind of what it was, is they cut the ribbon and now, they're using it. So that's kind of, just a simple little, I forget what the word is, metaphor for this similarity, I forget what they're called, but anyway, so moving on, we're going to do the sin offering for Aaron from verses 6 through 14. So everybody's come together for Aaron's made, he's made these sacrifices. They're about to really start using this. And so everybody's at the congregation. So remember the tabernacle diagram here that I have. Remember, this was the complex. This was like the outer perimeter. This was the gate where everybody walked in, and you walked in from the east and you were greeted by the altar and then the laver. And then there was this big old tent, which was, inside of this, you would go in the holy place where there was a table of showbread. There was the lampstand and the altar of incense. And then even further beyond another veil was the Holy of Holies, where we see the Ark of Covenant. And this is where God himself, the Lord, is residing. Remember, they don't see him as a person. They see him more like natural phenomenon, what we would call natural phenomenon today. But that's what he was appearing at that time to these people as. So that's what he's telling them. This day he's going to appear to you. Remember, he'd appeared to them before in the book of Exodus. Remember in Exodus, he appeared as the burning mountain when they came across the mount. And of course, only Moses was allowed up the mountain and all of that. If you remembered, I want to say this was back in Exodus 19, when they came across Mount Sinai. Yeah, Exodus 19 is when God calls Moses to the mountain. And then, of course, they see, the mountain's on fire. There's earthquake, lightning, all of that. It's natural phenomenon. And this is what God appears to them as. He's telling them, you're going to appear and take all these. And Moses said unto Aaron, go unto the altar and offer thy sin offering and thy burnt offering, and make an atonement for thyself and for the people, and offer the offering of the people, and make an atonement for them, as the Lord commanded. Aaron therefore went unto the altar and slew the calf of the sin offering, which was for himself. And remember, this comes from Leviticus chapter 4, the sin offering. And if you remember Leviticus chapter 4, when the priest sins, verses 3 through 12 was when the priest sins. So when the priest sins, that's what he's doing. He's doing this whole thing for them. He slew the calf for the sin offering, which was for himself. And the sons of Aaron brought the blood unto him, and he dipped his finger in the blood and put it upon the horns of the altar, and poured out the blood at the bottom of the altar. So remember, that's this big old bronze altar right here. He comes, it's got 4 horns on it, puts the blood there, puts the blood in the altar. But the fat and the kidneys and the caul above the liver of the sin offering he burnt upon the altar, as the Lord commanded Moses. So remember, that's what it was. It even mentioned this is how they did it in the last chapter too. Remember, they took the flesh, the hide, and the dung and all that, and the flesh and the hide he burnt with fire without the camp. So the outer portions he took to the outside of the camp, and this was all, like I said, Leviticus 4 explained this of how they were supposed to do that. When the priest sinned or when the congregation sinned, they were supposed to make this kind of an offering. And so, of course, God is starting off the whole shebang, or whatever you want to say. The whole deal is starting off with the fact that the high priest is atoning for his sin. And that's how he's coming right off the bat. The first thing they do is God is having the priest admit that they are sinful. The very first thing, he's sinful. He's making a sin offering for the Lord. He's sinned. The congregation has sinned. They're sinners. So that's important to know, because of course, if you're familiar with Jesus Christ and all, you understand that we are forgiven for our sins, and there's a whole thing is that we are sinful people. If you remember in Genesis, back in Genesis, chapter 8 or something, chapter 6 maybe, when the flood, I believe that's when he says that God looked, that man's heart was filled with sin all the time. Something along those lines. I can't remember exactly the words, but our heart was always sinning. Man's heart was full of sin, constantly thinking about sin and so forth. So the people are sinful, even the people of Israel. And that is the very first thing in this holiness that God is teaching them. They are sinful. So let's see. And he slew the burnt offering. So he burns the sin offering, and then moving into verse 12. And he slew the burnt offering, and Aaron's sons presented unto him the blood, which he sprinkled round about upon the altar. So, of course, now he's got the burnt offering, and he sprinkles the blood all around the altar, as explained previously. And they presented the burnt offering unto him with the pieces thereof and the head, and he burnt them upon the altar. And he did wash the inwards and the legs, and burnt them upon the altar, upon the burnt offering on the altar. So this is the burnt offering. This was Leviticus 1 explaining how to do this. How you were supposed to get an offering of the herd or an offering of the flock, and how you were supposed to burn it, of course. And he did wash the inwards. Okay, I read this portion. Let's see. No, I didn't. And he did wash the inwards and the legs, and burnt them upon the burnt offering of the altar. I did read that. And he brought the people's offering, and took the goat, which was the sin offering for the people, and slew it, and offered it for sin as the first. So again, the people sinned just as the priest sinned, and they're doing their sin offerings as they were explained to do, as they were instructed to do. And he brought the burnt offering, and offered it according to the manner. And he brought the meat offering, and took an handful thereof, and burnt it. Okay, so now we're moving on to the next section, remember? So that was the sin offering for Aaron, and so now we're doing offerings for the people, 15 through 24. So Aaron did these sin offerings. Not only did he do one for himself, but he did one for the people, and now he's actually doing the last part of this chapter is for the offerings for the people. So he brought the people's offering, and he took the goat, which was a sin offering for the people, and slew it, and offered it for sin. And he brought the burnt offering, and offered it according to the manner. So that's where I'm actually at. And he brought the meat offering, and took a handful thereof, and burnt it upon the altar. Beside the burnt sacrifice of the morning, he slew also the bullock and the ram for a sacrifice of peace offerings, which was for the people. And Aaron's sons presented unto him the blood, which he sprinkled upon the altar round about. So, of course, doing pretty much the same thing, as explained in the previous chapters of Leviticus. And the fat of the bullock and of the ram, the rump, and that which covereth the inwards and the kidneys, and the caul above the liver. And they put the fat upon the breasts, and he burnt the fat upon the altar. So remember, they're not allowed to eat fat. No fat or blood for them. They're not allowed to eat it. And so they're burning it here. And the breasts and the right shoulder Aaron weighed for a wave offering before the Lord, as Moses commanded. So remember, when he does that, I believe he's actually coming into the holy place and waving it right here in front of the altar of incense. And remember, that's what he means by he's waving it, and as a sweet savor and everything. God himself is saying he can smell it. He is there. He can see it. He can smell it and all that, even though a lot of people don't understand that because they're seeing him as natural phenomenon. So he waises, he does it, waved offering before the Lord. And Aaron lifted up his hand toward the people and blessed them, and came down from offering of the sin offering and the burnt offering and peace offerings. So he blesses the people. Aaron is the priest. He's consecrated. He's now making offerings for the people, and so forth. And God is there. The Lord is there. All this is now in place. And Moses and Aaron went into the tabernacle of the congregation and came out and blessed the people, and the glory of the Lord appeared unto all the people. So this is another big part. This is also mentioned back in Exodus, I think it was the last chapter of Exodus, so it should have been like Exodus 40. Basically, that's kind of the same scenario that we seem to be reading about. Is after they built it, Aaron started, the Lord came down and he spoke to Moses and everybody saw him come down. So here we're having that same kind of situation, is that after Aaron does all these offerings and Moses and Aaron are there, the glory of the Lord appeared unto all the people. So man, they go into that tabernacle and let's see, and there came out a fire from before the Lord and consumed upon the altar the burnt offering and the fat. So it's saying, and which when all the people saw, they shouted and fell on their faces. So he's saying that he does all of this, and then they go in here to do their little wave offering, and God, and then all of a sudden fire comes out of here, whoosh, all the way out here, and the fire itself from the Lord, from this Holy of Holies, came out and lit this bronze altar on fire. So some sort of big flame came out and was strong and powerful enough to light this bronze altar and everything that was on it. And keep in mind, this is, this isn't a short distance. This is this of itself. I don't know if it says this is 150 feet wide. So this is about at least 2/3 of it. So probably about 100 feet from here to here. 100 feet from there to there at least, probably. And there was a fire that came out that was strong enough to light it up. And it's a whole cow. Remember, it's a whole big old animal there. And it lit it up, and all the people saw this. They fell on their faces. They shouted and fell on their faces. So they are recognizing that there is something different going on here. The Lord is not like people. The Lord is not like Moses. The Lord is not like Aaron. The Lord is not like Pharaoh at all. He is not like any man they know. He is some sort of powerful being that controls natural phenomenon. He could shoot fire out of a tent without, necessarily burning. Moses and Aaron are inside of the tabernacle, and they came out. And so when they come out, well, they're not in there. But remember, Moses himself walked up the mountain when it was on fire, and the Lord had told Joshua to guard the base of the mountain and to not let anybody in. Remember, no one was allowed to be on the mountain while Moses is up there, or else they would die. And so, God, even though the Lord here, he's sending out fire, which is, we all know, to be very dangerous and can obviously kill people. The Lord is protecting them as they go and do this somehow, because again, he is some sort of natural phenomenon as we know it, and he is showing himself to be such a thing, natural phenomenon, and the people are recognizing that he is not like the people. He's something different. He's something powerful, and they are worshiping him, and they're worshiping him perhaps, through fear at this moment. And of course, it's written that fear is the beginning of knowledge of the Lord. So they are fearing him. He is strange, and they are seeing that. And this is why we read this, because these people know that this happened. This wasn't fake. This wasn't made up, for example, or anything like that. This is real history. This is what these people saw. It happened to them. And we have an entire country as proof, that country being Israel, not to mention, Rome and everything to serve as proof even further down the line, because even Rome was in the Bible. Even the Pope is set up, and their whole church, even though it's what it is, it's not It's not this, obviously. It's not the holy church of the Lord, obviously, but it is proof that Jesus Christ is real and that this all happened, and this is their history. This is the real history of what happened. They saw this happen. Keep that in mind, is that they saw the Lord shoot fire out of a tent 100 feet to light up a bronze altar, and they knew it was special. It wasn't, they weren't barbarians, they weren't dumb, they weren't stupid, they weren't unintelligent people that could not explain this. They just knew that it was unnatural somehow. It was not like anything any man could do, and therefore it had to be indication of what they were hearing through Moses of what the Lord was telling them. So I just would like to point that out and keep that in mind. So with that, I will go ahead and end this video. This video will come to an end here. That was chapter 9 of the book of Leviticus. And of course, Aaron and his sons have been consecrated, and now he's making offerings. That was the book. That chapter was called the first offerings. And of course, we'll move into one more chapter in this kind of section of this before we move into another type of section for Leviticus. And we will see what happens with some of Aaron's sons. We're going to have a big deal in the next chapter where something happens to Aaron's sons because of something that they do wrong. So, but like I said, I'll go ahead and end this video, and I will end it the same way I usually do. I'll go ahead and say that if you like what I'm doing, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for future chapter by chapter Bible study. And I pray that we all bless Jesus Christ, and may Jesus Christ bless all of us. Amen.